What's up, A to Z Sports Nashville? Happy Friday. I'm your host, Easton Freeze, joined once again by my good friend, Ryan Roberts, and we are doing some mock draft madness this morning. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys are having a great end to your week as we are in the midst of some March Madness. Ryan, you and I on the show yesterday said, what is the upset we're going to be talking about tomorrow morning? And the answer was the McNeese Cowboys, I guess, upsetting whoever they want to get. Who did they beat?
I, that's a great question. They upset
The Chiefs are
Georgia. Was it
jumbled it.
Georgia?
No, Georgia got
No,
thwapped by Gonzaga.
Gonzaga.
Um,
Yeah.
Chad, who did McNeese beat yesterday? I barely even watched the game because they drubbed them front to back. Except it was
Yeah, they were
almost too
smoking.
much
They
of a
were
game at
smoking
the
them for a
end.
while. My VCU call did not end up going very well.
Me
But
neither. Clemson, that's who it was.
Yeah,
Clemson. Yeah,
they were
Clemson
they were up
tried
at
to
like
come back.
20 on Clemson at some point, weren't they? Like it was a drubbing at some point. But
That's right.
yeah.
As Louis Chesney says, SIU got hammered. Yeah, that was never a game whatsoever. The one seeds handled business yesterday. Auburn gave them a chance there for the one seed they played. There was a moment with Alabama State, but then it was ugly. So no dramatic, earth-shattering upsets yesterday. A 12/5 is the closest we got. Maybe today we will get some exciting upsets, some more exciting upsets. But we're going to do some mock draft madness this morning. Ryan and I are literally just going to do a mock draft with you, the people. We're going to pull up the PFF mock draft simulator here in just a minute. We are going to, throughout the show, interacting with the chat, get our answers to what we think will happen in the first round, and then do a full 7-round Titans mock draft, talking through different players, different scenarios, getting, I think, a better feel, hopefully. The idea today is for you guys in the audience to get a better feel for what the first round is going to entail, because something interesting, Ryan, about the way that we're covering the first overall pick is that, the blinders kind of get put on when you have no one to consider in front of you in the first round. And so I think most Titans fans, and fairly so, don't have a great idea as to what is going on between picks 1 and picks 35, because we've not had to talk much about it. Who knows? Which Titans fan knows who's picking 23 and who they're likely to take? Which Titans fan is deeply familiar with defensive tackle 3 in this class? That's just not where this fan base's mind is at right now. So we're going to do a little bit of a dive into that. I think we won't spend a ton of time on players that don't matter that much to you guys, but I think it is important to figure out what's going to happen between 1 and 35, because it's going to dictate what happens at 35. And then Ryan and I will go 7 rounds deep with the Titans picking some players that ultimately will end today with a people's mock that, between the people's input, Ryan's input, and my input, is perfect, is 100%, can't fail, save the franchise. So that's exciting. Ryan, before we get to all of that, tell the folks what they have to do.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting show. Obviously, breaking down not only the first round, but the Titans mock just in general. And I think it was great that we started yesterday talking about the positions of need for the Tennessee Titans. If you didn't catch that show, and talk about who could be potentially available at 35, because I think this all works together, right? Like this is a mesh of a conversation that matters ultimately when you're deciding who not only the Tennessee Titans are picking at 1, which I think most people know at this point, but who they're going to end up picking at 35 and beyond that point. But before we get into the mock draft madness today, folks, make sure you're sharing the show. If you're watching with us on Facebook Live, hit that share button in the bottom right corner and get it out on your feed. If you're watching on YouTube right now, take that YouTube link and send it to a friend in your life or one of your group chats. Just find the Titans fan that know and let them know that A to Z Sports is live and talking 2025 NFL Draft and Tennessee Titans. You can also repost us on Twitter X to help spread the word. Don't forget that thumbs up button right now and leave a like on the show before we get going here on a wonderful Friday morning.
Yeah, let's get us started officially. Welcome into the A to Z Sports Show live on a Friday morning. Every weekday morning, we are here live on the A to Z Sports YouTube channel at 8 Central Time, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links tweeted out segment by segment on our Twitter feed at ATOZ Sports. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more Titans coverage. Also, leave that 5-star Google review for A to Z Sports. We got to thank our sponsors for making the show happen and helping you guys out. Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute of Tennessee, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedics and sports medicine, boneandjointtn.org, and our friends over at Bart Durham Injury Law. A crash can change your life forever, but help is just one click away at bartdurham.com. All right, Ryan, I think without further ado, we should just pull up the mock draft simulator. I'm going to go ahead and throw it on the screen here. And There we go. Oh, if it'll let me. There we go. It will let me. Let me remove this. A little clunky. There we go. So here's what we're looking at this morning, folks. And today is a fantastic day. Fantastic day for got a scammer in the chat. We got a scammer in the chat. Oh, uh-oh. We'll take a look at that and see if we can't get them out of there. But ignore them. Pay attention to us because we are going to be going through the first round. So we're going to do every team. We're going to select all teams here. And we'll probably do this in 2 phases. We'll probably do so how should we do this? Because we don't want to pick every pick for every team for 7 rounds. So maybe we need to do a first round mock. Get out of it.
Then we'll
back.
Reload and then go to a 7-round mock. Yes, right. Sir.
I like that. I like that. That's what we'll do. So today is the day to jump in the chat over on Facebook, on YouTube. Join Curtis and Jeff, Caps, Darius, Vanessa, Drew, Ashley, American Toff, Coach Wills, all of these familiar faces. Join them over there because if we get to a point, we're going for predictive mock today. This is not Ryan and I's opinion so much as it is we're trying to figure out what's going to happen with some of these picks. And if Ryan and I are of split mind on, I think it's going to be this player and Ryan thinks it's going to be this player, then we need you guys to break the tie in the comments. We need you guys to be hot on the keyboard like you are with the trivia game, and jump in here and help us figure out who we should go with. So because this is the people's mock, we ultimately want to do what you guys think is going to happen. So we'll go ahead and enter the draft here. And at the top, we have, of course, the Tennessee Titans. We know what the deal is here. We can go ahead. We're not going to trade before the draft. We're going to start the draft, and we're going to scroll down PFF's rankings until we find Cameron Ward. Now, before I draft Cam Ward, there's no debate about this. Obviously, we're going to take Cam Ward. I have a question that's kind of off the wall for you, Ryan, but I want to get your take on it. And I was thinking, we'll have Cam at the top of the draft, be kind of boring, anticlimactic. Everybody knows Cam Ward, right? Fine. Yep. What can we talk about before we dive into the rest of it about Cam Ward? And I saw this
quarterback, 0-star recruit. I don't know. Sorry.
Right. Exactly. The question I have for you and for the chat this morning, and this is kind of an immediate tangent from our conversation, but I want to hear y'all's thoughts. I saw on Twitter yesterday that some folks, and I'm not going to single anybody out because I've seen this from a couple of different people. This was a shared opinion, not just one person. We have seen quite a bit the comparison Cam Ward to Steve McNair, and it's a play style comparison. That's not crazy. In particular, the way that they play strong in the pocket, the way that they are above average athlete, but not going to run away from anybody. You know what I mean? And McNair was a little bit of a bigger player, and so he was more inclined to run you over, I think, than Cam Ward is. But they are both sneaky difficult to track down, sneaky difficult to get down, and they're both very creative players in the pocket. There's a lot of plays from college tape from Cam Ward and from the NFL highlight reel for Steve McNair, where they're both doing pirouettes and backflips in the backfield, trying to buy time to get the ball downfield. So I get that. I see a little bit of that in him. Obviously, comps are not predictive in terms of success, but what I've seen from people yesterday online, Ryan, is that apparently there's a contingent of folks who think Cam Ward needs to be better than Steve McNair, that the expectation should be because listen, I was reliably informed yesterday that Steve McNair actually kind of just a game manager. He was a fine quarterback, but he wasn't incredible. And in terms of a talent, from a talent standpoint, career long, if Cam Ward is not better than the quarterback that Steve McNair was, then that's a disappointment. And before I give my thoughts on that, I want to get the chat's thoughts on that. So I'm going to type that in the chat while you, Ryan, can give me your thoughts on that.
It's an interesting comparison because body types wise, it's pretty similar, right? Like both guys are right around 6'2". Both guys are 220 plus pounds. They're pretty strong, dense quarterbacks in the pocket, and they both rely on their ability to work out of structure, right? Like Steve McNair, some of the best plays. I remember his Super Bowl against the Rams where Kevin Dyson was stopped a yard short of the goal line. Steve McNair made some crazy plays in the game, working off of breaking tackles in the backfield off of guys like Kevin Carter, who was a really good defensive end for the Rams back in the day when they were in St. Louis at that point. So I get the play style comparisons, right? And funny enough, both of them were former FCS quarterbacks. Obviously, incarnate word for Cam Ward. Steve McNair was obviously an Alcorn State
Alcorn
great.
State,
So if we're
baby.
gonna compare the backgrounds, I guess they're somewhat similar. You know, if
How
there's
much
a transfer
Alcorn State
portal
tape you
back
been
then.
grinding this season?
What's that? Alcorn State?
Any
Not too
Alcorn
much.
State hidden gems at Alcorn State this year?
Not too many. Not too
Okay.
many. There actually was a. You're gonna make me go off on a
Uh-oh,
tangent.
there actually is a guy. I'm going to send you
there
on a
was a
tangent.
safety, Quinterio Cole, who was at Alcorn State, who spent his last year at Louisville a couple years
Crazy
ago.
pull.
So there's a little bit.
I'm
of a deep pull
impressed
there,
just from that.
Yes, but so I get the play style comparisons. Obviously, I think that Steve was just a different type of dude, though, man. Like, he was just a little bit different. I think athletically, this is where I think the difference is for me. I think Cam's a good athlete. I think he could extend something in the pocket. But when I watched Steve McNair, I thought that dude was a great athlete, man. Like, he was really, really athletic. And yes, he was more of an extender than a true runner, but like, he could run too if he wanted to. So I think the comparison is understandable, but I don't quite follow it. I actually don't even have a great comparison for Cam Ward. But to like the Steve McNair thing, I mean, I always thought Steve McNair was a very good quarterback, right? And I mean, he was literally a yard away with Kevin Dyson from tying that football game against the Rams. Then who knows what happens after that? And if he wins a Super Bowl, I think the perspective and the perception of what Steve McNair was a little bit of a different conversation, right? I think people kind of hold him at a little bit of a higher degree. He was a little bit of a gunslinger, a little bit out of structure. So like there were going to be some warts with him ultimately. I think him and like he played in the same era as like Donovan McNabb, and I feel like they have some of the same warts overall as players. But I thought Steve McNair was a very good player. He was actually one of my favorite quarterbacks growing up because he kind of had that little bit of hero ball to him, but he never said die to a play, man. He was a good football player.
Yeah. Let's turn to the chat before I give my. You know what? I'll go ahead and give my thoughts. I think it's insane. I think it's crazy. I think we're over a month. Yesterday, we were exactly 5 weeks away, or 4 weeks, 5. I think exactly 5 weeks away yesterday.
5 weeks. Yep.
From draft night. We are currently 5 weeks away from the 24-hour lull between night 1 and night 2. And we are already sending the expectations to the moon for no reason.
Yep.
We're doing a great disservice to Cam Ward as a young prospect, as a young player. The idea that, I mean, Steve McNair won an MVP and played in a Super Bowl. What are we talking about? If I told you that Cam Ward's career is going to culminate in playing in a Super Bowl and winning an MVP, you'd tell me that's incredible. It's unbelievable. I can't believe that this happened.
That's the absurdity of the take is that if Cam Ward takes the Titans to a Super Bowl and wins an MVP, that's not a successful career. Like that is very like
apparently not. Oh, people in the chat are parsing it with co-MVP. Oh yeah, he had to share the MVP with one of the great Peyton Manning of all people. That was his equal that year. Unbelievable. That was a handout MVP that year. They were just giving it to anybody. Yeah. Stop.
I had a soft spot for that Titans team, man. Because for people that don't know, that haven't caught a show with me before, I'm not a Titans fan. I did not grow up a Titans fan, but I had a big soft spot for those teams with Steve McNair, Eddie George, Frank Wycheck. Like those were awesome teams. So yeah, if he ends up being Steve McNair, that's a good thing. And honestly, like Easton, imagine Steve McNair in the era now. I know it's hard to compare guys to different eras, but like Steve McNair in 2025 would look a lot different than Steve McNair in 1999. You know what I mean? Like it would look a whole lot different. It's easier now to play the quarterback position in a lot of different ways. And I think that it would be Steve McNair was so reliant on the big play. He was always big game hunting. Can you imagine him in an era where it's just like RPOs and screens to kind of buffer that completion percentage and a little short area stuff and a little bit more of innovative space game for the passing game perspective? Like things would have been a lot easier for him. So I think it's just the mixing of the eras that kind of jumbles things up a little bit. Steve McNair would be so good in today's era. So good.
When MB says Easton, he never came close to doing that twice, winning another MVP. Who cares? Who cares? You know how many fantastic franchise quarterbacks in the history of the NFL never came close to winning one MVP, let alone winning a second MVP? What are we talking about? This is about expectation, right? Is it fair to say that Cam Ward's ceiling, best case scenario, could be a better career than Steve McNair had? Yeah, I think that he has a ceiling that is a top 5, top 3 quarterback in the NFL, and he's incredible. But if we're talking about expectation, right, setting the floor, what a pass fail, because that's what this was the context of the conversation, was whether or not it's a good or a bad draft pick, is if he is better or worse than Steve McNair. The expectation should absolutely not be you must be better than the guy that won an MVP and played in the Super Bowl. And every year when we talk, by the way, when we talk about Legacy Hall of Fame, like every year in the finalists, like Eddie George and Steve McNair's names are popping up. They're never going to get in, obviously, but they're constantly fringe contestants in that way. Like if Cam Ward goes down as a guy that is brought up in Hall of Fame conversations for years after his retirement, that's going to have been a fantastic selection. So I think that's crazy, and I just wanted to see what the chat had. Scrolling back up here to see what the chat has to say. Let's see, where did we ask this question?
It's a lot of
there's a lot of mixed chatter in here.
There's a lot of chatter. That really like that started a fire of debate in the chat. I think most people were kind of on the same wavelength that you were talking about, as far as like, hey man, like Steve McNair is like that's a big comparison, obviously, but then some people are.
Cap says, yeah, the number 1 overall pick needs to be better than McNair 100%. Okay, well, I think that's crazy, but Caps disagrees with me here. C. Rich says it was a different time. Excuse me. Like you were saying. Let's see. Chris says, for some reason, fans don't seem to like McNair. I do find it strange. I think over time, there's a surprising number of Titans fans that are kind of anti-McNair. I don't really know why that is. Matt Salter says game managers don't win.
Years we had to watch Will Levis play quarterback, right? Like,
right.
Appreciate Steve McNair?
Well, apparently not. Apparently not. Yeah. Matt Stotler says game managers don't win MVPs, which is typically true.
Was Steve McNair a game manager though? Was he a game manager?
I mean,
perception of him is different. Like
I don't know if
I was a game manager.
I think that he was a good quarterback, I think he was a borderline great quarterback, but I don't necessarily. I'm not sure I would. How many years of his career was he a top 3, top 5 quarterback in the league? Is kind of what how many was he a top 10 quarterback in the league? Like he was always kind of in that conversation of top 10, but he had moments where he was playing at the top of the league in terms of his best years, his ceiling of his career, but it wasn't sustained in that way. And sure. So I do think there were times during his Titans career that to be fair to the game manager accusers, he was maybe a little bit more of a trailer quarterback than a tractor quarterback. Maybe, you were winning with him more than you were winning because of him. There were certainly times that you were winning because of him, though. So he was kind of always riding that line, in my opinion. Right. Yeah. At least there's some folks in here like Steven and Top Tier and Ethan saying, no, he doesn't. Darius, no, he does not need to be better than Steve McNair to be a success. But some folks like Jeremy and others, they think, yes, he does. He does need to be. Yes, he needs to be better. Okay, he needs to be better from Jeremy and #QJ. I think that you guys are setting yourselves up for disappointment. I think that you're being deeply unfair to a young player, and I think that you need to reconsider your expectations. Let's put it that way. Okay, now I'm going to go back over to the mock draft simulator and click draft on Cam Ward. So Cam Ward, you are a Titan. And now we get into some interesting conversation. What's going to happen with the rest of the draft? We'll dive into it as soon as I get to tell you about our friends over at the Bone and Joint Institute. When I find their overlay, there it is. The Bone and Joint Institute, our friends over there. We love them. You'll love them as well. Check them out over off of 65 in Franklin. They are a one-stop shop for you. They've got everything in-house. They've got a clinic, testing, imaging, surgery, rehab. They're the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedics and sports medicine over at boneandjointtn.org. Whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know who to trust, and the Bone and Joint Institute is the team that you can trust here in Tennessee. We vouch for them because we here at A to Z have had experience with them firsthand, and it has been a 5-star experience for us. Like I said, over there located in Franklin, a dozen specialists who can help you with any type of injury, state-of-the-art rehab facility on campus to help you recover. Schedule an appointment today. Go to boneandjointtn.org. Go check them out. They will help you with whatever injury issues you are having. All right. Now, go ahead, Ryan. Tell the folks what they need to do.
I was just going to say, man, you need to make sure that you are liking the show for us right now, whether you are live with us on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook, whatever. Make sure you hit that like button as we get into the rest of the first round of this 2025 NFL mock draft.
Okay, now let's go ahead and chat. This is where you need to tap in because we may have some questions and we want to hear y'all's thoughts on each of these selections. The further we get down into the first round, the more contentious it's going to be. With the Browns, Ryan, we talked about this last week, the week before, whenever we talked last, just about whether or not we're buying this idea that the Browns are happy with whoever falls to them in terms of quarterback, that they'll just take the sloppy seconds of the quarterback market. There's been some chatter since then in the media about, you had Myles Garrett go on the Browns podcast and talk about how he has a pretty good idea of who the quarterback's going to be, and he finds that exciting. I don't know if he actually knows or whether or not he's kind of blowing smoke on it being super exciting. Is he talking about Kirk Cousins? Is he talking about Shedeur Sanders? Does he happen to think that the Browns are going to trade up to 1 to get Cam Ward? You had Adam Schefter on ESPN yesterday saying that the Browns would like Cam Ward. Yes, a lot of teams would like Cam Ward. I've heard some things behind the scenes about that this week that I have kind of done some digging on. Not much truth to that, at least at the moment, in terms of there being any kind of trade talk. That could change, but right now, not a thing. So I don't know. It's either Shedeur or it's one of the blue chip guys. Where do you fall on this right now?
So I've been back and forth on it. At first, I thought it was going to be a quarterback. And then I think our last conversation, I was like, I think that they are just going to take best player available and keep it moving and then see what the veteran quarterback market looks like. Based upon how things have kind of structured itself and kind of gone through the first wave and a half of free agency at this point, I do think that they are in the quarterback market. I do.
Okay.
I think that there is a love for Shedeur Sanders, and I think that they would be very open to taking Shedeur Sanders at 2, because I think the thing is that, yes, you're not selling for your second guy. I think that was always a bunch of smoke. But I do think that there actually may just be a reality where they've liked Shedeur all along, and they knew that the Titans were going to take Cam Ward, or whoever was going to trade up was going to take Cam Ward, and they're okay with being number 2 because they actually prefer Shedeur Sanders.
Okay, well, you know what? I think for the sake of today's mock draft, we'll just take Shedeur Sanders. I'll agree with you on that. We'll go with Sanders because the bluster is there, and if they've been blowing smoke, then so be it. Congratulations, they get a blue chip guy. But ultimately, where I fall on this, while I'm not sure that he's going to be the number 2 pick, Shedeur Sanders, I do think, and I think you're seeing this in the conversation in the past 2 weeks or so, post combine, Sanders' stock fell pretty dramatically because of the talk of teams didn't love the interviews. It didn't go great. Not testing all, like just the vibe was not good. And so suddenly folks were talking about, well, it's clearly Cam now. And by virtue of Cam clearly being the number 1 pick, the first quarterback, that means Sanders is liable to fall. And who knows where he falls? Maybe into the teens, into the 20s. Are we sure he's even a first round pick? I said post combine that I remain convinced that he's going to be picked somewhere between 2 and 7. I still feel that way. And I think you're seeing, Daniel Jeremiah's mocks went from having him in the 20s to bumping him back up into the top 10. Mel Kiper's did the same. You're seeing these guys kind of, I think, shift back to the reality of whether you think it's an overdraft or not. I think Sanders goes in the top 10. I think he goes in the top 5, probably, if I had to guess. So we'll go Sanders to the Browns at 2, which means the Giants, speaking of quarterback needy teams, are left high and dry before we pick their player. Do you think by the time they're making this selection of who they want in the draft, they will have settled on Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson?
They have to at this point, right? Because I think the common understand, like, if you're sitting there at 3 and there are 2 potential quarterback needy teams in front of you, and that doesn't even include maybe a team or 2 that might potentially trade up to get in front of you, I think you have to have a belief right now, if you're Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, that the first 2 might potentially be quarterbacks. And unless you are just fascinated with a Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe or something where you're willing to take
Daniel and Lou Chesney think is they're going to take Dart. At 3,
I
though,
don't buy that.
No,
I don't
no shot.
I do not buy it at all. So
I will eat my socks, man. There's no way.
They have to be preparing themselves. And like I talked about, they're just not in a winning window, or they're not in a young quarterback window. They are in a, we need to try to win some more games this year to save our jobs window. So I do think that an Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson would make a lot more sense in 2025 than drafting quarterback 3 in this class.
Yeah, that's how I feel. That is almost entirely how I feel. Now, maybe later in this mock draft, we decide maybe the Giants decide to trade back into the first for Dart. I don't think that's crazy, But I think that happens in
Yeah.
the 20s, not at pick number 3 overall. So the question then becomes, which of the blue chip guys makes more sense for the Giants? Is it Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter?
I I actually have Abdul graded higher than Travis. I think you are the
I am
opposite
the
there, right?
inverse.
Like you're a
Yep.
Travis guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's interesting because when I look at the Giants roster, they just made a big trade, obviously, last offseason for Brian Burns. They still have Kayvon Thibodeau, so they still have a couple quality edge players on the team already. They have needs at receiver, potentially outside of Malik Neighbors. They have a need at corner as well. So I think that Travis Hunter kills two birds with one stone, and he would make a lot of sense there at number 3.
Yeah, I think both of these guys make a lot of sense actually, because like they do have some quality defensive linemen, but nobody. I mean, on the interior they have some Abdul Carter caliber players. At edge, they do not. They could really use an Abdul Carter on the edge. But I'm with you that I mean, personally, I think Abdul Carter is the generational player in this draft, and to your point, he kills two birds with one stone. So let's go Travis Hunter to the New York Giants, meaning the Patriots and Mike Vrabel are left with really a gift. Abdul Carter still on the board for Mike Vrabel. So there's some questions. I heard somebody say yesterday, I think it was Daniel Jeremiah, talking about maybe it wasn't. I don't whoever it was. They were saying there's no doubt that Abdul Carter is an alpha. An alpha is alpha. The question some teams have is he too much of an alpha? And
Interesting.
And too much of an alpha, if I had to describe Mike Vrabel, who I have personal experience with, succinctly, maybe too much of an alpha is what I'd go with. He so there are times when there's a little bit too much alpha in Mike Vrabel's game. So yes. I think that too much alpha stud edge rusher is exactly the kind of player that Mike Vrabel would like. Don't you?
Yeah, I would take Abdul Carter without even thinking twice about it. The only curveball I would throw, and I'm good with taking Abdul Carter, just that Armin Membau's got a lot of conversation in those circles. He does. So if he took the offensive tackle out of Missouri, I would not be shocked even this high potentially, but I personally would take Abdul Carter and I wouldn't think twice about it.
And that's the drama that could potentially be created around the Patriots pick if you have one of those blue chip guys there, which I think is very possible.
Yeah.
And they are knowing that their greatest need right now, and the best way to help Drake May survive is to help him at left tackle. I think there's going to be a contingent of fans that are upset either way because you can't have both. You have to pick. And if you pass on the blue chip guy, of course, people are going to be furious.
Yes.
But if you pass on a tackle, people are going to say, okay, what the heck is the plan at tackle to protect our franchise quarterback? So I'm with you that it's Carter. I think you have to, no matter how badly you're tempted to, you have to. You can't not take the blue chip guy. But man, what's the plan? I don't know.
What's the plan? That's a great question.
Josh Connerly in the second. You're just hoping and praying. Like I don't know what's gonna
if he even gets there.
If
right?
I don't think he will. There.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Ariante Ursary is your guy. Is that what we're gonna roll with? I don't know, but Abdul Carter for now. Figure out the tackle situation later. Now is where we get interesting because we got both top quarterbacks and both top blue chip guys off the board. And the nature of this draft, I mean, you know this. We've talked about this a lot. It's kind of, you get through the first, some people would argue 4, some people would argue as much as 10, but the first chunk of top tier players, the top 5, top 10-ish players. And then it's like 30 or 40 players in a row that are all kind of graded the same for a lot of teams. And so it makes for, I think, really difficult mock drafting because the tier, at some years, it's like you have clear tiers to me. It's like, well, here it's going to be these guys first, and then this group next, and then this group next. For me, it's like you get these first couple out of the way, and then I won't be particularly shocked by anything happening. You know what I mean? These top receivers, I think a lot of them could go in the top 10. I wouldn't be surprised if they all fall into the 20s. Same deal with the tackles. Same deal with some of the edge players. You just don't know. And so with the Jaguars on the clock at 5, they're in an interesting position where I think most mock drafters are having a somewhat difficult time wondering, where do they go here? What do you think?
Okay, so I think there's 2 positions that are I think there's one player and one other position that's in play. And we just talked about offensive tackle. I think offensive tackle is interesting because right now they have Walker Little slated to start at left tackle, who's often injured and just not overly good. Like he's fine. He's not good. He's not very good though. And they have Anton Harrison, but the conversation is that Anton Harrison could play right tackle, which he's been playing, or he could shift over to left tackle. So do you take a Armin Membau that we just talked about and play right tackle? Do you think about a Will Campbell potentially from LSU, like one of these tackles
Mhm.
potentially off the board. I do think if Josh Simmons was fully healthy coming out of Ohio State, it might be a little bit of an easier conversation. But here's my pitch,
Yes.
Easton, and the guy that I would take is Mason Graham. I
Uh-huh.
would take the defensive tackle out of Michigan because the way I look at this team right now, in a new era now under Liam Cohen, one of the things that was missing most with this team is I just don't think they had any tone setters, man. They didn't have
Mhm.
any attitude on this team. I
No
think
juice.
Mason Graham on the middle of a Josh Allen Hines and a Trayvon Walker, he brings an added feel to the game and added like a menacing force, for the
Mhm.
lack of a better term, that I think this team is missing. So I would draft Mason Graham, and I think it's possible that happens, but I think offensive tackle is the other spot that's in play.
To me, I'm even more convicted on the position group. I do think they address the defensive line here, and I think
Yeah.
Mason Graham is the best player available. So if they go BPA, I think Mason Graham is the pick. He's kind of a polarizing player in the sense that his pass rush ability is constantly brought into question, and he's also
Yeah.
a guy. And you'll hear Daniel Jeremiah talk about this if you listen to him. He's a guy that he's built for the fall, not the spring. And when you go to a game in the fall and you look at him warm up and you just put your eyes on him, like somebody you just
He
the eye
doesn't look like
test
that
is
guy.
like
Yeah.
he looks kind of pedestrian. It's like this is the guy we're talking about. But then you watch him play ball and there's a monster in there and it comes out and you're like, okay, there it is. There it is.
Yeah,
And
I saw him going through. I think it was like with his personal trainer last offseason. He was just working like a hoop drill, or I think he might have been going through the bags. And I'm just like, yeah, he doesn't look like a potential Pro Bowl defensive tackle on the
right.
hoof. He doesn't. But then you turn on the film and it's just like
There it
nobody
is.
could block him. Like, what do you want me to say? Like, no
Mhm.
one could block him. You know what I mean? Someone put an interesting one in the chat, and I think it may have been Daniel Jeremiah or Mel Kiper that mentioned this yesterday, but someone had mentioned Tyler Warren, the tight end for Penn State at number 5 to the Jacksonville with Evan Ingram now off of that team to give
That'd be
Trevor Lawrence a
rich. And
middle of the field targets. Yeah.
I don't think their new GM is built like that. I don't think that's the way. That sounds like a bulky move. That doesn't sound like a what's the name of their new
James
GM?
Gladstone.
James Gladstone. That's right.
34-year-old that looks like he's,
Tech
20,
bro.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
He and he's also, by the way, in his press conferences this offseason alluded to the fact that they're probably going to address the defensive line with a couple of picks in the draft. And I think that could start here. One sleeper, and I think I'm double checking here. It was in Daniel Jeremiah's latest mock.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is just a little bit of more intel into how the teams view these guys and anything. He had them passing on Mason Graham and taking Jalen Walker, the edge out of Georgia. Edge I use in scare quotes because I'm still not convinced he's actually an edge.
I hate that so much.
I hate that.
Yeah.
I think that'd be dumb. Because I think this is a linebacker. I don't think he's an NFL edge. Maybe he is, and he's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but I like his teammate better. If I had to pick one of the edge players out of Georgia, I know who it is, and it's not Jalen Walker. It's Micah Williams. And here in a minute, I'm probably going to argue for Micah Williams to come off the board before Jalen Walker. But when Daniel Jeremiah has something that off the wall in a mock draft at this time of year, we all know what the deal is. That is him telegraphing, hey, teams like this guy. Whether you like it or not, teams like this guy. And the league he thinks the league is higher on this guy than maybe we are. And I guess my question to you is, why would they be? Why?
I think it's the Hassan Reddick arc, right?
Okay,
I just talked about this on a show this week.
That's
where
the
it's
hope.
like Hassan Reddick was an edge on-ball guy at Temple. Then the NFL tried to make him an off-ball guy and tried to make him a true linebacker at the Senior Bowl. And then his early career with Arizona Cardinals, right? Were the ones that drafted him originally, Hassan Reddick. And it just wasn't him, right? And eventually they moved him to edge and he became a quarterback hunter, but he's like an extreme outlier. And I think that's the same arc. Like, historically speaking, you're just not going to find too many guys that are sub 6'2" that have 32-inch arms that are really good outside pass rushers. But I don't think you're drafting Jalen Walker to play inside linebacker this early. Like, I just don't think that's him. I think the hope is that he's an outlier of an edge rusher that has that speed and explosiveness. But
if you draft him here, you have to have him play edge. You have to.
Yes.
It's try.
I mean, but then the conversation happens of, I know there's been like Trayvon Walker trade rumors recently. So like, who knows if that ever happens, but it's like, I don't know, man. That's just a weird. I think it's a clunky fit. Like, I think it's a really clunky fit potentially. I don't like it.
Coach Will says he's just using Jags history logic, so he's just going with the crazy pick because that checks out. I mean, James Gladstone, for all the jokes, I don't think he's going to be the wacky and wonderful and weird decision maker that Balky was and is. I just don't. I think that he's going to be a pretty sober, analytically minded team builder.
Yes. No, we don't compare anybody to Trent Baalke on this show. We do not do that, please.
The NFL's greatest cockroach, Trent Baalke. Okay, so we're gonna go Mason Graham, even though there's some questions about what exactly happens here. I do think we were talking before the show. Keep it simple, stupid. Mason Graham's been a top 5 talked about player the whole time. Let's keep him in the top 5. So there he goes at 5. And as we go here, we'll probably pick it up. I know we're on pace to do like a 3-hour show, but we will start to fly through these things as we get away from the top 10. I promise. I just think this top 10 is really interesting. And by the way, Richie G points out we got 200 folks over 200 folks watching us live this morning. Thank you for being here. Only 23 likes. I see
stalkers.
I see. Yeah, stalkers is strong, but only 23 likes on Facebook. I guess I'm seeing 30 between Facebook and YouTube. What are we doing, folks? Hit that like button. It is free. It takes a click of your finger. It's like 0.0001 calories is what it costs you. No money, just that little minute amount of energy to hit click on the like button. It's the thumbs up button right down there. So help us out with that as we continue through this mock draft. And we're going to start leaning on you guys a lot more the deeper we get into this draft in the chat to see what you guys think is going to happen. So we're on to the Raiders here at pick 6. Is this the Genty spot, Ryan? Is this the time for the most exciting rant out of nowhere? Just suddenly the Raiders are everybody's favorite new offense. Because I could live with that. I could.
I'm totally okay with Genty. I think the other conversation is wide receiver, but I just happen to think that a wide receiver is not going to be valued as high as 6. Like I just don't think it's going to happen.
Correct.
So I am totally fine with Ashton Genty at 6, even though some people will think it's a massive reach for a running back, blah, 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 blah. He's a really good running back though. So
if I told you that if I was able to go into their front office, find their big board and say, oh, they're not taking Genty at 6. It's somebody else. Yeah. Who else? Maybe what position is it receiver that you think that they would go here? Because we're looking at the board. You've got Ted McMillan up here, which is really, he's very high. I mean, he's number 3 on PFF Sport. I don't think that's accurate in terms of NFL predictivity by any means.
I think it's wide receiver or it's corner is another one, right? Like I feel like as a collective, we've all kind of cooled on Will Johnson, but I don't think the NFL is necessarily cooled on Will Johnson. I think
Agreed.
Will Johnson's still liked for Michigan, but
Jahdae Barron's up there. I know the league loves him.
The league does love Jahdae Barron.
The league sounds like you don't, but
I like Jahdae Barron. I just don't like Jahdae Barron in the top 10. Like,
okay.
that's just where I'm at.
And he may not be a top 10 guy, but I wouldn't be surprised because I think folks love him.
I wouldn't be surprised either. I think he probably ends up being a top 15 pick, but yeah, I mean, I'd rather have Genty obviously, just because I think he's a little bit of a different prospect comparatively. But again, like I think corner's on the board, but I mean, dude, that offense last year from a running perspective was awful. They averaged 3.6 yards a carry, and it's like misfits of like Zamir Smith and
it was the worst run offense in the league by a significant margin. So bad.
It was like Zamir White, Amir Abdullah, Alexander Madison. It was just like the island of misfit, terrible running backs.
Fake names, not real people, not real players.
Exactly.
Yeah, Madden players. You're telling me a Zamir White is in the league? Get real. It's not a real person. So yeah, I think it does. Positional value, sminitional schmalue. I don't really care. He's awesome, and how can you again? This is a team whose vibes have shifted so dramatically just from even a month ago, where they're now looking at a Brock Bowers, Geno Smith, Tom Brady backed, Pete Carroll coached team. You're going to add Ashton Genty into the mix, the guy that a lot of people wanted to be the Heisman, the guy that we talked about more probably than any other offensive player throughout the fall, start to finish, as just being an electric factory. Yes, put him in that offense and let's just have fun. New America's team out there in Las Vegas. I'll be a Raiders fan if that happens. I 100% will be. I'll be rooting for them to probably still finish 3rd or 4th in the AFC West, but who cares? It'll be fun while they do it, which is a change of pace for them. We're on to the Jets. The Jets. They have a quarterback for now. They're good there. Mm-hmm. They need some help for that quarterback probably. And this is not a roster that's actually super destitute by any means, but they've got some interesting options on the board. What position group are you circling for the Jets, who PFF says they need a quarterback? Not anymore. Wide receiver, tackle, defensive line. Where do you think that they eye here? Who do you think that they eye here?
Tackle would be responsible. Obviously, they have Olu Fashanu, but they don't have Tyron Smith anymore. They said goodbye to Morgan Moses, so there's a massive hole at one of the tackles this year.
Yep.
But I want Tyler Warren, man. I want Tyler Warren in that offense. I just do. I want Tyler Warren, Penn State side.
I think that's what Mel Kiper did in his latest mock too, was give them Warren.
the Jets haven't had a great history with first round tight ends. I think the last two they've taken were Kyle Brady back in the day and then Dustin Keller. So like it hasn't been
Who?
great,
Oh
but yeah,
no.
it doesn't Purdue great, man. Purdue great, Dustin Keller. It hasn't been great, but
Woof.
I think Tyler Warren's a little bit of a different cat, and I like him a lot, man. And I really think that you have Garrett Wilson, who obviously can be moved around a little bit as a wide receiver, but you just don't have like a huge presence to the middle of the field. And I think that Tyler Warren would be that guy, man. I really like Tyler Warren a lot.
All right, here's our first disagreement. So, chat, you got to help us
Yes.
decide this.
Yes.
Give us a pick between these two players. I think I'm going to be the responsible adult in the room here and
Do
say
it.
they need to take Armand Membu. They do.
Okay.
This needs to be the Membu spot. Listen, Warren would be exciting, but this is a team that needs to get serious. And unlike the Raiders, who I think it's okay for them to have a little fun right now and just see what happens, the Jets have had their fun. It's time to get real. It's time to grow up, put together a real team, build a team through the trenches. So, chat, who should we have the Jets take here? Should it be the fun option in Tyler Warren or the responsible option in the tackle Armand Membu? Let's see the chat here starting to chime in. Drew says Membu has been his vote for a while. Eric says tackle. Brian says tackle. Tackle for the Jets. Jacques Subtle says Jets are never serious. Go Warren. Just lean into the bit. Bork says take Membu. Tackle. Okay, well, I'm sorry. You've been overruled by the chat here, Ryan.
Nobody likes fun. Everybody's too serious.
No, we like fun for teams that deserve to have fun, but the Jets, the Jets are officially in their hangover era. Like they've had too much fun. It's time to sober up. So Membu to the Jets at 7. Now to a team that, speaking of some fun, we could have some fun with this team. The Carolina Panthers, who, here's an introductory question for this topic. How comfortable on a scale of 1 to 10 are you at this point that they've got their quarterback? They figured it out. He figured it out. How sure of that are we?
The second half of the year was promising. Obviously, I think it's really going to be it's really going to be important how he comes out this year, right? Like for me, because for me, it's very easy to play well in the back stretch of a season after people have just kind of stopped watching your team because you're bad, right? Like you're a little bit you're out of the spotlight at that point. If Bryce Young comes out and has a strong first half of the year, then we start to feel a lot better about the future of the quarterback position. But it's up in the air at this point. Like I'm not like strongly, yes, Bryce Young is definitely the guy, but I do have a slight cautious optimism based upon how he left it, but we have to see how he picks it up here in this first half of the season.
I agree. And to me, this is a defense spot. I think this is either edge or defensive back for Carolina. I would say
probably a Jalen Walker spot, to be honest. If we're
that's where I was going. I think this is an edge spot. And here's where you need to pick a lane here, because and maybe you feel this way too, you can chime in. I still am not buying the Jalen Walker hype. Like I don't get it. I think that Micah Williams is a better, I just think he's a better prospect. And I think teams probably see that too. Actually, in fact, I know of one team at least that sees it that way. Walker under Micah Williams. And so what should we do here? Do we go with what the inside? Because Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah both had him in their top 8. I think DJ had him going to the Jaguars, like we mentioned, and then Mel had him going to the Panthers right here. So should we make this the Jalen Walker spot, or should we go with our gut and go with the player who we think is better?
I would put Jalen Walker just because of the needs on the Carolina roster. Obviously, they need edge help, but also they say goodbye to Shaq Thompson this offseason as well. So if he is a guy that some teams view as a off-ball linebacker that maybe plays on the edge and obviously passing situations and then sub, then I think that Jalen Walker could potentially kill 2 birds with 1 stone. How well he kills those birds, that's a little bit more of a question. But
PFF doesn't even have him listed as an edge, by the way, which respect
linebacker?
that. I guess they do. Yeah, I respect that because that's what I think is real. Where is linebacker? There it is. He's not even their top linebacker. Tough. So I don't know. What do we do? Do we just make it the Walker spot?
Yeah,
I don't like it, but I'll do it. It's a predictive mop. We're trying to predict. We're reading the tea leaves. The Panthers make a bad pick at 8 and take Jalen Walker. Bad pick. Okay. Hate that pick for them, actually, but hope he's good. All right, the Saints at 9. Talk about a team in purgatory. Yes. The Saints could use a lot of things. They could use a skill player. They could use a defensive lineman. Where's our gut on the Saints? Do you have a feel for them?
Tackle, wide receiver, I think are the top 2. Chris Olave's been pretty good when healthy, but he hasn't been overly healthy, especially last year. He only played 8 football games, and outside of him, it's kind of a barren wasteland at wide receiver, but offensive tackle too has obviously been a major disappointment with what you've got from Trevor Penning, obviously, right? Like he has not been very good at all. So they need an offensive tackle. They need a wide receiver. I'm honestly okay with either. I'm not a big Tet guy. Like I'm just not, but I'm
Me
okay
neither.
with Tet because he brings something that they just don't have, like actual length in that wide receiver room and winning outside the numbers. Like they just don't have that type of guy.
So we are really split on this one, and we're going to have the
Let's do
chat
it.
settle this. So your choice is Tet. Is that what your final answer is?
Yeah, I'll go with Tet. Predictive
Okay.
nature.
I
Yeah.
think they go defender. I think they bolster the defensive line. I think again, trying to read the nature of the draft, right? And we talk so much about how stacked this defensive line, this edge group is. I think that's going to lend to run on these guys in this range. And so I think that they'll be looking at somebody like Jihad Campbell, like maybe even Shamar Stewart, who I disagree with being that high, but I think that a lot of teams see him that way. I think Micah Williams. So I think for me, it's Campbell, Williams, or Shamar Stewart. I'm going to, you know what? Predictive mock. I'm going to try to get in the minds of these Saints, who I think are a poorly run organization, and say that they want Shamar Stewart, that they fall for the eye candy. I don't think this is a good pick at all at 9, personally. But I do think that the league sees him in this vein. So I'll say Shamar Stewart at 9. So chat, Shamar Stewart at 9 or Tet McMillan at 9. Let us know. Let us know what we think. Chris Jump says O-line or D-line. Drew says Shamar Stewart. I know Drew's a big Shamar Stewart guy, so this is going to please him.
Jackson Dart, baby. Connor Pruitt threw it up.
He's on there. He's on there. Kyle says Shamar. Connor says Dart at 9. I mean, I think, yeah, Mel Kiper had them going Dart at 9, which we're not going to do that. We're just not doing it.
Imagine a room of Derek Carr and Jackson Dart. That would be a heck of a room, man.
Nightmare blunt rotation. Brad says Shamar Stewart. Let's see. Eric says first receiver taken at number 9. Wow. Drew says he wants us to have a sit down and talk about the edge class with me. That's all right. We'll hit me up, Drew. We'll coordinate that. Work says Stewart. Don't care. T-Mac, Tet. Oh, we got some Tet love here. Stewart, Tet. Uh-oh.
John Campbell entering the chat.
Wow. A late run for Tet. You know what? I'm kind of thinking the chat wants Tet now. So you know what? We'll go Tet at 9. I personally don't think Tet is going anywhere near here, but this is the people's mock, not Easton's mock. So Tet it will be. Tet goes off the board at 9 to the Saints, leaving the Bears with some options. They have done quite a bit on their offensive line. I don't think that this is Will Campbell continuing to slip down our board, but I think this is possible considering the fact that he is not a tackle. Defensive line, defensive back. I think this is a defense spot for them. I think you're looking in that same category that I was just talking about. I think this could be a Jihad Campbell spot.
I think this could be a trade back spot too. Obviously, we're not doing trades in this mock. But this
right. I feel you on that.
Spot.
I do. Yeah. I feel you on that. I think Micah Williams or Jihad Campbell are the two guys that come to mind for me first.
Yeah. Dude, the NFL loves Jihad Campbell. I know for a fact that he is. I don't think he gets past Tampa at 19 at the very latest. Like I think that is the floor potentially for Jihad. Mm-hmm. I think he could go top 10. We probably should have mentioned him for Carolina. We probably should have mentioned him for New Orleans. Like
I did mention him for New Orleans. Ranges. I did. I brought him up.
Okay.
You didn't. You bad draft analyst, but I brought him up.
I'm an idiot. Jihad is an interesting one for Chicago because Chicago doesn't really need off ball, right? Like, they still have TJ Edwards and they still have someone else that's not terrible, right? I think.
I'll have to check that. But I think you're right that they need edge more badly than they need linebacker. And it's why I'm kind of inclined to say Jihad falls just a little bit longer, and this is the Micah Williams.
Let's go Mike Hill then. Let's go Micah Williams.
We'll go Micah Williams. Let's see where's he at here on their list. Whew, they do not like Micah Williams here at PFF. Let me tell you, they don't like him at all. Do they even consider him a player in this draft class? Are they even thinking about him?
Let's see what this right.
Oh, okay. At 24, I just missed him. All right, fine.
Oh, okay.
There we go. All right, we'll pick up the pace here now that we're out of the top 10 because I know that we are running out of time. But we'll just some interesting thoughts here. The Niners.
Yep.
Boy, they could go anywhere. I mean, for me, it's probably. I mean, with Will Campbell there, I do think they probably think about it just because he's maybe a BPA at this point. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go. I was about to say DB is also on their board, but if they were considering Will Campbell or Jihad Campbell or Will Howard, not Will Howard, Will Johnson. What do I think that they probably say, oh, it's just Will Campbell then.
I mean, it really depends if they think Will Campbell's a tackle or not. Like, they're not picking him at 11 if they don't think he's a tackle. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where
I don't
the
know. The Titans
conversation starts.
The Titans did it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay. I was thinking Will Campbell or Will Johnson. One of the Wills, I think, is where you go here.
The chat, I'm seeing some Campbells.
Yeah.
I'm seeing some
They
Campbells.
definitely need a tackle. There's no doubt. Trent Williams is entering the end of his career, and Colt McKivitz stinks at right tackle, so it makes sense.
So let's go Will Campbell. I do think that he'll probably go in this range. Let's go Will Campbell. The Cowboys, a team that you never quite know what they're going to do in the draft. My gut on them has remained running back or receiver just because of their need for some juice on offense.
Yep.
But if right now we're talking about, Omarion Hampton or Matthew Golden, like, are we really in that range here at 12, you think? Tyler Warren?
Tyler Warren would make some sense. Tyler Warren or Jahad Campbell, right? Like, they need some linebackers, don't they? I think, right? Yeah. I mean, their starting linebackers are Maris Loifau and DeMarvion Overshone. So I feel like you can upgrade linebacker too if you wanted to. So Campbell or Warren, or Campbell or Warren.
So you don't think Hampton's a possibility? There's something in my gut that tells me this is just going to be like the Bijan Gibbs year, and they both go way higher than we think.
I mean, it's possible, man. 12 is just really high for him, Like,
it's the Cowboys we're talking about. It's the Cowboys.
I know. But like, I remember when the Gibbs thing happened, I'm like, that kind of was like out of left field. But I'm like, I did have Gibbs also as like a top 15 player in that class, I think. So I'm like, okay, like, that's fine. I don't see Hampton as that guy. Like, I don't see him as a top 20 player in this class even. But if you think they'll reach because they have a little bit of a major, I mean, right now I think the running back room is like Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams, right? Like, it's a really bad room. So I'm okay if they want to take it, but I think, man, Tyler Warren's interesting as well because Jake Ferguson's okay, but like, he's not a
fake
difference
Jurgensen
maker tight end,
That's my friends, and I call him fake Jurgensen.
Hey man, he was good in fantasy that 1 year. He was really good in fantasy.
Sure. So if we're down to running back or linebacker here, I'm kind of having to change of heart all of a sudden. I think if Jihad Campbell's still there at 12, they probably take Jihad.
Yeah. That linebacker room is not great, man. DeMarvion Overshone again and Maris Loifau. I mean, I would love Maris Loifau to be good because he's a former Notre Dame player, but like, he's probably more of a rotational piece of anything else. So,
all right, let's go Campbell at 12. Let's go Campbell at 12, which brings us on to the Dolphins, who need a bevy of things. For me, given what we have on the board here, I could, you just saw Javon Holland move. I could see this be a Malachi Starks spot.
Might be a Nick Amon-Wari spot too. You never know.
Well, so where do you fall on that quickly?
I like Starks more than Amon-Wari personally.
So do I.
Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's where my gut says first is Starks. Do we have any? Do you have a rebuttal on that?
The only other spot is tackle. I mean, they need offensive line in the worst possible way. So I mean,
right, but who's here?
Are you okay with taking Josh Simmons at this point at 13? I mean, that's
This is a team that needs to win now, though. This is a team that needs juice now, though. You know what I mean? Like, this is their window.
I mean, they're not going to have any juice if they can't protect Tua at all. So I mean, there's some juice issues there.
This is true. So are we fine with Starks? Can we go Starks?
You're okay with Starks. If you want to go Starks, go for it.
I think it makes sense. The Colts. I think this could be the Tyler Warren spot.
Oh,
I wouldn't be shocked by
Warren pick.
I mean, should we just lock that in?
Yes, some insight real quick. They love Jahad Campbell. I think they would take Jahad Campbell if he's on the board, but he's not. And I think they also have they love Starks as well, who just went before them. And they also really like Tyler Warren. So I think those are the three guys to watch for them.
All right. So they get some juice on offense. First great tight end option in Indianapolis in a long time. There we go. The Falcons at 15 are on the board and could use, let's see, edge is always an option in Atlanta forever and always for some reason. Linebacker as well. This could be the Mike Green spot. James Pierce is really high on this board, but I'm going to continue to pass on him for obvious reasons. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the Mike Green spot. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean they need pass rush in the worst way possible. So I mean, I personally like as long as everything checked out, I would go James Pierce Jr. But Mike Green is probably the more realistic as far as like predictive nature of this mock right now.
Right. Okay. Well, let's go Mike Green then. Mike Green to the Falcons, which brings us on to the Cardinals, who could use some offensive line help, some defensive line help, some DB help. I wouldn't be shocked if this is a Jahdae Barron spot. I wouldn't be shocked if it's a Will Johnson spot. Those are the I think this is probably, looking at the board, BPA style. I think that those two are going to be really high on boards at this point, and so we just need to decide which of the two they like.
Is Will Johnson still on the board too? Is he still on the board right now?
Yeah, right here, number 3.
Oh man, I didn't even see him. Yeah, corner makes a lot of sense. They have a really good nickel in Garrett Williams, but they don't have great outside corner play. So that would be one spot. My other one is if maybe a Kenneth Grant spot bolstering the interior defensive line, but that's the only other.
Let's let the chat decide between the DBs here. Jahdae Barron or Will Johnson. Chat, who do you think they take, Barron or Johnson? Let's hear it. Titans Kyle says Barron. Bork says Barron. Or well, that's not. He said Barron or Johnson. Yeah, that's what we're trying to decide. Cap says Johnson.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to chime in? Johnson. All right. Well, I guess Barron, Johnson. I'm seeing more Johnsons than Barrons, so we'll go Johnson. Will Johnson here to the Cardinals. The Bengals at 17. The Bengals, it's defense time. It's defense time for the Bengals, right? They have to hit on their defensive players. They're probably going to go 7 deep at defense in this draft. I'm fine with this being the Kenneth Grant spot. I think that makes sense. So let's go Kenneth Grant. They bolster that.
They're the easiest team to pick for, man. Draft any defensive player that you want, and it's not a terrible pick at this point. Like they just need defense.
Yep. So we're on to the Seahawks now, who I could see this being. I mean, we haven't talked about Colston Loveland yet. I could see this being a Colston Loveland spot. I think he is going to go somewhere in this first round, somewhere probably in this range. I know he's not on this board for some reason. This could be
Josh Simmons,
a Josh Simmons spot. It could.
Yeah.
I don't know. Josh Simmons makes some sense to me. Is that where your mind is at?
Yeah, I go Josh Simmons just because I actually do like Loveland a lot, but they have a lot of guys that are middle of the field receivers, like Jackson Smith and Jigba, Cooper Kupp. So I just don't know if it's a diverse enough of a skill set to be okay with it. So I would go tackle help there.
All right, they take the best tackle in the draft at pick 18. What a steal for the Seahawks. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers now, they could use some help all over the defense, essentially. Edge, linebacker, defensive back. Where is our gut at with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I could see this being I kind of we talked about Ezeraku a lot yesterday as a guy that could be there at 35. I kind of did some digging on him yesterday and realized that I think I'm a little bit behind on the times in terms of the Ezeraku hype. I think he's going to be gone. I think I was wrong about that. I don't know if he's gone this early, but I think by the time we're done with this first round mock here in a second, I'm going to have convinced you to take him off the board because I think that team, I mean, he's in these first round mocks for a lot of these insiders that I guess I wasn't hip to. I don't know. What do you think?
I talked to someone that covers Tampa, and they were talking about apparently Ezeraku's been a very popular name to them in mock drafts.
Oh, has it? Okay.
Apparently, I think corner is a sneaky need because the long term of Jamel Dean is kind of in question as well. So this might be a Jahdae Barron or best corner available type of selection as well. So if we're being predictive, I would be okay with Ezeraku or Jahdae Barron at this spot.
Let's go Ezeraku, because as Drew says in the comments, he's not only is he a good need fit for them, but he's also a good stylistic fit for a Todd Bowles defense. Yep. So that makes a lot of sense for me. We'll go Ezeraku to the Buccaneers at 19. And then we got the Broncos at 20. The Broncos could use
Colston Loveland.
I was about to say the Joker
I don't
player.
Even care
I
that
think
they signed Evan Ingram. Like I would still take Colston Loveland, and I wouldn't.
Okay.
About it.
You know what? You're so convicted on this. I won't even push back. We'll just go Loveland. That's fine. Which leaves the Steelers. Now, is this the Jackson Dart spot? Is this the Jalen Milroe spot? What do we think? I don't know. They're gonna have. Are they gonna have Aaron Rodgers on their roster at this point, or is it gonna be? Because if there's a world in which we're sitting here and they're making this decision on a Thursday night 5 weeks from now, and Mason Rudolph is the quarterback. What are we talking about?
I just don't think Jackson Dart's gonna be a first round pick. I mean, if there was one team that changes that, I guess the Steelers would be one of those teams. I mean, they did just draft Kenny Pickett a couple years ago, but I mean, Chat, help us out for a second. Are you okay with Jackson Dart in this selection? I would rather not. If I had to pick, I would actually go Derek Harmon from Oregon. I actually kind of like him on that defensive front,
That's
kind
what
of
Drew
filling in a couple
says.
different
Drew the
spots.
Sharp is
But
all over Harmon. All right, chat.
yeah,
We need responses of either Dart or no. Dart or no. Those are our options. Do we go Dart
Dart
here
or
or do
no?
we not? Are you willing to make him a first round
To
prospect, or should we
Dart or
consider
not to Dart?
to
Yes.
Dart or not to Dart? Chat, chime in. Let us know. Coach Will says I guess he has a bet for 4 quarterbacks in the first round. Why did you place this bet? What a horrendous bet.
Or he wants that to happen so a good wide receiver falls to Tennessee at 35.
Oh,
Like
okay.
we talked
Well,
about
that's fine.
yesterday,
I'm fine with
maybe.
that.
Yeah,
Give me the
maybe.
chaos. Cap says Dart. Ryan says Dart for sure. No Dart. No. Yes, Dart. Yes, Dart. Yes, Dart. No Dart. No Dart. Yes, Dart. No. Oh man, it's so split. Yes.
I don't
No.
know.
Oh.
Darius said Dart LOL, so
Oh,
I
good
think
point.
he's
That's a no.
saying
That's a
maybe
no.
no. I don't know.
All right. I think doing some quick math, it seems like the no's win out by a hair. So we will not
Okay.
put Dart in the first round of this mock. We won't do it. No Dart. People are saying no.
Okay.
So if we're taking Dart off the board, maybe this is the Harmon spot. They do need some help on the interior defensive line. That makes a lot of sense. Are you fine with Harmon? You want to run a
Yeah,
Harmon real quick?
I am. Yep. He could be the heir apparent for Cam Hayward, and they also have another interior spot that he could plug into right away. So I like it.
All right, perfect. The Chargers here, I could see this being a receiver spot. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think Matthew Golden would make a lot of sense. I think Emeka Egbuka would make a lot of sense. The reason why I lean Golden is I think Egbuka's skill set, and I love Egbuka. I think his skill set probably a little bit of an overlap with Lad McConkey in terms of them being useful twos. I think that Matthew Golden has that one potential that would make a lot of sense for this offense. So that's my vote is Golden. What say you?
I think we can move it quick. I'm good with Golden in that spot. I'm good with him.
All right. The pack is, you never quite know what Gutekunst is going to do. I could see this being a name that I've heard a lot for them is Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback out of Kentucky. Maybe a bit of a reach here with Jahdae Barron still on the board.
Yeah, still got JD on there, but
I mean, is this where they take their number one receiver? I don't think so. I don't think that's the MO of the Packers at all. It may be what they should do, but I don't think it's what they will do.
I say we go Barron here. The NFL is high on Barron. I think
it's a shame we still have him on our board. I think we probably messed that up a little bit.
He has a similar skill set to Jair Alexander too, which I think can mix and match a little bit. Like I think both guys can play outside. I think both guys can play inside. So I think like mixing and matching their skill sets could be pretty cool as well.
All right, Barron it is. As we continue to chug through this first round, the Vikings on the board. No receiver needs here. Defensive needs are where my head is at. I think DB is where my head is at on this. This could be the Nick Emenwari spot.
Yes. I'm in love with Nick Emenwari in this spot because the way I look at it is you can use him alongside Harrison Smith, who decided to come back for one more year. And then after Harrison Smith retires after next season, more than likely, then he slides into the hitman spot. I think Emenwari is a perfect spot. Perfect.
I just want to give Emenwari. I want to give a player like Emenwari to that defensive coordinator and just see what happens. Just kind of throw them in a room together and see. So that's what we'll do here. The Texans, brother, suddenly dire need for offensive line help. Who's the offensive lineman here that convinces them? Are they sticking in the state of Texas and saying, Kelvin Banks, you're our guy?
I mean, right now they have Cam Robinson playing left tackle and Blake Fisher playing right tackle. So I think Kelvin Banks is a upgrade over either guy, to be honest with you. So
agreed. I think they'd kill if somehow Josh Simmons could fall to them here, and that'd be a heist. But
I think that's the dream, right? Like that's the dream is that, for the first couple games, because he's coming back from the injury, maybe Cam Robinson's the stopgap, and then maybe you could use him as a swing or even move him inside potentially if he's open to that type of thing. But obviously Simmons is off the board here.
Yeah, so I just hope that wasn't their plan because I think it's a bad plan. I don't think it's going to happen. And if it does, good for them. But it's still a real gamble. So we'll go Banks, and I think it's a bad pick, but it's what it
reminds me of a few years ago. Do you remember a few years ago where they had offensive tackle, big need? I think it was Christian Darrisaw was like sliding to them, and they were about to get him, and then I think the Vikings jumped over them, and then they had to settle for Titus Howard. They had to reach for Titus Howard at that point.
Yep.
So
you're right.
You never want to be in the 20s and need a certain player to fall to you. That is not usually a good situation to be in.
All right, so we take Kelvin Banks off the board to the Texans, and we go with the Rams at pick 26. I've seen in every national mock, this is apparently a cornerback spot. They need a DB. That makes a lot of sense. The question is who? Is this... I mean, shoot, man. I don't know. Maybe it's not the cornerback spot. Who's available?
I would.
Is this the Trey Amos spot?
No, please.
The Maxwell Hairston spot?
I would be okay with Maxwell Harrison. I'd also be okay with Savon Ravel as well from ECU. I know he's a little bit down on that board, but I
Somebody
think
that I
the
haven't
upside's
mentioned
very
yet
high.
that I do think
Yeah.
belongs in the first round conversation. Azariah Thomas. We have any love for Azariah Thomas?
I love Azariah Thomas. Yep, I think he's a borderline first round guy as well. He's a very press man exclusive player, but if you like to
Mm-hmm.
play press man, which the Rams I don't think play a ton of press man. I could be wrong about that, but I'd be okay with Azariah Thomas as well. He's a very powerful, strong corner at the line of scrimmage. He's got surprising hip fluidity as well. So I'd be okay
All
with
right, so
Azariah.
chat, chime in real quick. Azariah Thomas out of Florida State, or who else do we say? Oh, Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. Who do we want to go to the Rams at pick 26? Hairston or Thomas? Those are our options. Drew, man, mind meld for Drew and I on everything besides edge, apparently. Azariah Thomas should be a first rounder. That's how I feel as well. Thomas says, Wills says Thomas. Chesney says Maxwell. Bork says Thomas. Thomas in the lead. Hairston, Maxwell. Maxwell back in the lead. Get a couple more in here before we decide. If we get a couple more Maxwells, then it'll be Maxwell.
Every time I hear Maxwell, I just think of the commercial with the pig. Was that a Geico commercial? I think. Was it?
Yes.
Great
I heard. I hear what you're saying on that. Maxwell. All right. You know what? Maxwell Harrison. It is. That's enough for me. I've seen enough.
Go for the speed.
We're going for speed. Where are you, Maxwell? I saw you. There you are. All right. The Ravens, they could use some help on the trenches, both sides of the ball. They could use a defensive back.
It's been my Tyler Booker spot a lot lately. Tyler Booker, interior offensive lineman. That would be fun, I think. That'd be a lot
I think
of fun.
Booker makes some sense.
Yeah. They usually just like good players that kind of fall a little bit, just kind of fall into their lap and they take them. They don't.
We still have Shamar Stewart on the board, by the way.
Oh, what? Okay, well, take Shamar Stewart then. I didn't even know he was still on the board. Yes,
I think he'd make some sense for them at edge, and this would be a classic Ravens. How did they get this guy to fall to them moment? Right, this would make sense spiritually for the Ravens. So we'll go Shamar Stewart there to the Ravens.
I forgot Shamar Stewart was still on the board, guys.
Because he's a forgettable player. Sorry, Drew. He's a forgettable player.
Hey, I remember all 1.5 of his sacks this past year, so I don't know.
That's right. That's right. They were memorable. The Lions on the board certainly could use some defensive line help. I wouldn't be surprised if they were a receiver spot either. Sneaky receiver spot, depending on who's on the board. But
they might be a Tyler Booker spot too. They need a guard quietly as well. So.
I don't have a super strong feel on this. My gut says you gotta go D-line.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, do we like Darius Alexander or Walter Nolan? Is this the Nick Scorton spot? It's kind of, you're starting to get thin at.
I'm okay
edge.
with Scorton, or I'm okay if the James Pierce Jr. slide stops here as well.
Okay, you know what? That might be the move actually.
Yeah.
Scorton or Pierce? Let's go to the chat. Scorton or Pierce? James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee or Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M? One is clearly the better player, but we know what the concerns are off the field. Do you think that it's time for Nick Scorton? I'm seeing some folks say it's time for Nick. Lou says it's time for Nick. Drew says it's time for Nick. Drew says this guy Easton does not know ball. Yeah, whatever, buddy. Pierce. Drew says Scorton. Pierce. You know what? The Tennessee-based chat says it's Tennessee time, so we'll go Tennessee. James Pierce to the Lions.
That's fair.
And Dan Campbell's going to iron him out. Don't you worry about it. The Commanders, they could use some defensive line help as well. They could use some. The Commanders are a team that, it's funny, they have more needs than you'd think, considering where they landed last year in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
I could see this being the Azariah Thomas spot. I think cornerback is a big need for them, and I think Azariah Thomas belongs in the first round. So that's kind of where my head is at. What about you?
Corner or pass rusher. If you want to go Scorton there, I'm okay with it as well. If you want to go with Azariah Thomas or even Savon Ravel, I'm okay with that as well.
Let's go Thomas if I can find him. Cornerback. Today's show is going to be so long, but guess what? Austin's not here to tell me to wrap it up, so we can go as long as we want. We can make this 2 hours if we want to. Get over it. We can do what we want. Azariah Thomas.
I still have to get to work today, so
That's a good point.
Other work to do.
We'll go long, but not too long. There is I need to write a lot of things before I get sidetracked on basketball.
Yes.
Let's see. On to the Bills at 30. 3 more picks here in the first round. The Bills are a team that I think I know they went wide receiver last year with their first pick. Me personally, I wouldn't be upset if they went receiver again. I think that,
Yeah.
I mean, Emeka Egbuka falling out of the first round is crazy to me. I think that he would be, I think the Bills would love him here. I just don't know if he makes sense in terms of their room.
Yeah.
And I'm still not sure Luther Burden is necessarily going to be that guy either. But people think Egbuka or Burden in the chat, it seems. Drew says sneaky Xavier Watts spot. I don't know. Where's your mind at here?
I like Xavier Watts. I think both those wide receivers are just a little bit of better prospects, in my opinion. So I would defer to one of those two personally. And I mean, like they signed Josh Palmer this offseason, who's a solid departmentalized receiver, right? But like, I still think that you have a winning window here, and getting Josh Allen as many weapons is not a bad investment at all.
A great point by JD3. They won't want Egbuka to fall to KC, which is 1,000% a thing that will go through their mind. And we'll be talking about it. So you know what? We're taking him off the board before the Chiefs can have him. Can't have him. Egbuka to the Bills. Who cares? 5 slots on the same team. Who cares? All right. The Chiefs could really use some offensive line help.
A tackle.
Is this a
Josh Connerly?
Is it a Connerly spot? Is this a sneaky Gray Zabel spot, even though they've got their interior line kind of figured out?
Yeah. I gave Tyler Booker to them in a mock too because there was a run on tackles before them, and I just gave him Tyler Booker just to solidify that interior. But yeah, I just kind of want to think about a interior offensive line that had Tyler Booker, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith all together, which is pretty scary. It's a scary.
I'm going to say this is the Connerly spot. I think Connerly makes sense to me.
They do desperately need tackle. No doubt about that.
And the Eagles finally taking somebody that infuriates all of us, I'm sure.
James Pierce.
Where do we think?
Oh, he already went. He
went. I know. We've been saying he's that guy, but he's not. He's not going to be in this one. Is this the Walter Nolan spot? Continue to build through the trenches.
They lost Milton Williams. They still have pretty good interior depth, though. This is a Nick Scourton with them losing Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham this offseason.
I could see that. I think that I'm fine with that, actually. Well, to me, it's Scourton or Nolan. Because I think Nolan's clearly the better prospect to me personally. I don't know. Chat, chime in. Walter Nolan, interior defensive lineman at Ole Miss, or Nick Scourton, edge player out of A&M. Scourton or Nolan? Chime in. Drew says, got to be Nolan. Jonathan says, got to be Scourton. Let's see some other ones. Scourton, Nolan, Scourton. Scourton, a very, very slight lead so far. Let's see if there are any other folks that chime in here.
Someone said safety.
Safety, says Coach Wills. Well, we're not going to do safety. Sorry. Anybody else want to chime in? I think it's Scourton, unless Nolan. Just kidding. No, you know what? It's Nolan. A late push for Nolan, so Nolan it is. And Scourton is the guy that falls into day 2, and the Titans hope that he falls to them, I suppose. Maybe that's the narrative there. So there we go. There's our people's mock first round draft. We are already at an hour 10. Do we want to do a speed 7 rounds Titans mock just for?
Oh, let's speed it. Let's speed it real quick.
Just speed rounds.
Oh,
all right.
We can do it.
You know, I'm gonna save this for us so that we can post it somewhere or whatnot. As the
we could do alternating picks in a 7 rounder.
All right, let's do that. You and me alternating picks.
Yeah.
Who wants the first one? Let's do a new mock. Let's do Titans 7 rounds, super speedy. Enter the draft. I'll do the first one, so you can have 35. Okay. You can have fun with 35. I will start the draft and take Cameron Ward wherever you are. Did I skip you, Cam? Hello.
I think he had him in the 20s. I think.
Oh, unbelievable! Wait. Oh, this is. Why is you know what?
Am I wrong?
I don't know. Where is? Wait, oh, it already had us take Cam. Oh, okay, cool. All right. Wait, did I click Browns? Oh, I clicked Browns.
Okay.
Whoops.
I was about to say, what just happened? Okay.
Time to start over the mock draft simulator. Give me the Titans 7-round mock draft. Enter the draft. There we go. Start the draft. Give me a quarterback named Cam Ward. All right, now it should zoom. See who you have left on the board at 35.
Okay.
Bork says, pick for each team through 7 rounds, you cowards. Another day. How long would that stream go? How long would we be here if we did a 7-round mock for every team?
Stream.
4-hour stream?
Can you show me the edge board real quick?
I
Here?
can.
Since it doesn't look like there's gonna be a wide receiver that I'm gonna love in that spot.
Ooh, not a great selection.
Not a great one. No.
What other positions could they consider here? I mean, these are your options: receiver or edge.
I'm gonna take Princely U. Give me Princely
I like it.
Umon Mielen out of Ole Miss.
I like that. Somebody pointing out that Shadur fell to 33 here. A dream for the Browns. A dream.
I think I told you the other day I did a mock on a different mock draft simulator that had Riley Leonard going 3rd overall. So yeah, sometimes
excuse me.
Yes. Oh, this happened. I think I told you that on the phone the other day.
Yes,
Yeah,
you did. You totally did. I blocked it out because it's so absurd. I don't keep those things in my brain. So all right.
Yeah.
At 103, the Titans have addressed the edge position. So I'm going to take a peek at who we have on the board here at receiver. Oh, the 150-pound wonder. Isaiah Bond still on the board? Sprinting it up. Give me Bond.
Yes.
Sprinting it up.
Get a little speed. Speed. Yep.
Who are you taking here at 120? Any positions you'd like to eyeball for the Titans?
Man, let me think.
We'll throw the receivers on there for you. I'll throw the edge players on there for you. D-line.
How much of a safety need do you think there is? Do you think there's a safety need?
There is. It just depends on, where they're. I think running back is a potential. I think really, you know what? It's actually all the positions. So never mind. Taking all these off. They could go anything here. I wouldn't be super shocked.
Okay. Can you show me the safety board real quick? Show me the safety board real quick.
Yeah.
Let's see what that guy looks like. Billy Bowman.
I do know that Upton Stout, local visit to the Titans.
Sure.
They are interested in Upton Stout. Just putting that out there.
All right. The only other position I would like to look at real quick is tight ends. Can you show me tight ends?
Ooh, Gunner's still on the board.
I'm actually.
Oh.
I'll go Gunner Helm. Yeah,
I like it. Helm. That's fun. Maybe it may not be the smartest, but it's fun, and it's a pass catching option. I like that. All right, I'm back on the board here it's the Will Howard spot, baby. Give me Will. It's the Quinn Ewer spot. Hello. Let's see what kind of. I think they double up at receiver. Honestly, Pat Bryant still on the board.
Tesla's there.
Tesla still on the board, but would they take him in round 5? You know what? I'm going to take him in round 5 because in my heart he's a 5th rounder. So give me Isaac Tesla. They doubled up on a receiver, and the receiver room's fixed. They got Helm, Tesla, and Bond. We're in good shape. Who needs an X anyways?
Sure. Let's show me the edge board. I don't know if they would double up on edge. I don't think
it could happen.
Unrealistic though, right?
Ooh.
That board kind of stinks.
That board really stinks.
It's not a great board.
Any linemen here we like?
See offensive tackle. There's no
really.
Actually, no. I see one there I like. I will take. Wait. I will take Emory Jones in this.
That's who I was eyeing. I like that pick.
I will take Emory Jones. He can play tackle. He can move inside the guard. He can potentially back up a couple spots in his first couple years. I'll take Emory Jones.
Okay. I'm back on the board here. Call me crazy.
Okay.
This guy right here is catching my eye. I think he's a fun player.
Former North Carolina A&T star.
So do you have a strong opinion on Tootin? Because I think, like, I unironically think that he's a really good player that you could have here in the 6th round, and the Titans could use some juice at running back, sneaky.
Outside zone heavy running back that has vertical speed. Ball security is a big question, but
True.
He's very fast. If you want to add a little bit of speed to that room, that's an interesting proposition.
I mean, we're in kind of gross territory anyways.
Do not take Jordan James, or I will jump off this podcast immediately.
Not a Jordan James guy, huh?
Not a Jordan James guy at all.
Tough. Ooh, Ollie Gordon's still on. I'm going to take Ollie. He fits what they need better. Give me Ollie.
Back.
I like Ollie.
All right. Safety board. Can you go to safety board for me? Let's see
what I can.
On safeties. Oh, that's not a great board, but I'm going to go with RJ Mickens, who tested out of his mind out of Clemson. He also has NFL bloodlines. He's a solid player in that round. He'll at least be a really good special teamer, RJ Mickens.
Okay. I dig it. And I think this is the last pick or close to it. Yeah, last pick here. I'm taking the 7th rounder, which no name would I like. Take a flyer on somebody. Oh, that was it. Just kidding. That was it. All right.
Cool.
So let's see. Who do we end up here
Rating
with?
it?
How did they? Ooh, they hated your safety pick. Gave us a C+ overall. Started strong with Cam and then Princely, Isaiah Bond, Gunnar Helm. And then we fell off with our late round picks. They did not like the
They gave me an F
value on
for that
those.
pick. An F? That's
Apparently.
weird. That's weird.
Kind of, I think it's really difficult to get an F on any 6th round pick. Personally, that's kind of, I think they're all kind of Fs. So
They hated all of my picks, man. Every single one. They hated all of them. I
they
got
like
C+,
yeah, you're
B,
right.
D+, and an F. That was my picks.
All right. Well, you're not, you know what? You're not going to be in the PFF front office. They really dislike you for that. All right. So that's it. That is our mock draft madness day where we just kind of did whatever we want. I hope you guys had fun with that. I had a lot of fun with that as I pull back up our thing here. And that leaves us with 2 things to do. One, I have neglected to tell you all about our friends over at bartdurham.com. Can't go home without doing that. And we've also got some good news to get to here at the end of the chat. So I know it's been a long stream, but stick around for some good news here in just a minute after I tell you all about our friends at Bart Durham Injury Law. A crash can change your life forever and help us only a click away at bartdurham.com. Your big truck wreck is their fight for justice. A crash can change your life forever. They want to help you, and they're only a phone call away. Reach them anytime, 24/7 to get your legal questions answered at 615-242-9000. They believe you deserve to be paid over at bartdurham.com, and their team of attorneys are available to meet with you whenever and wherever is most convenient, including virtually. Visit the website at bartdurham.com for the current news, blogs, to contact them, to live chat, all of the things you need over there at bartdurham.com. They've been in business since 1975, so they got 50 years of experience dealing with all kinds of wrecks. Located in Capitol View, Nashville. They're local, but they can help anybody that's been in any kind of wreck in Kentucky or Tennessee. And they're led, of course, by Blair Durham, a great Tennessean, a great former Marine veteran, doing it the right way over there at bartdurham.com.
Make sure you like the show, folks. We are getting close to the end here, but make sure whether you are on Twitch, you are on YouTube, or you are on Facebook, hit that like button and make sure to share to all your favorite Titans friends and Titans groups out there in the wonderful Titans community.
All right, let's get to some good news on a Friday. Shout out to our friends over at WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Make them a part of your car buying experience today. Wilson County Hyundai in Lebanon. All right, time for some good news. Do you have good news, Ryan? I should say the chat. If you have good news, go ahead and throw it in there. Want to hear your good news here on a Friday. Maybe it's that your bracket is still perfect. If you have a perfect bracket, let us know in the chat. I'm curious if anybody actually does. And not your, bracket 11 out of 20 is perfect still. No, your bracket. Is it still perfect or not? I'm curious. But other than that, Ryan, you got any good news for us on a Friday?
Well, I did start my bracket 5-0, and then I kind of had a little bit of a tail off yesterday at the end of the day. So, we'll recover. We'll be okay. We'll be okay. But
bounce back day.
My good news, I guess, is that it is spring football is kicking back up in college football. I don't know if you have felt this.
That is a sick good news. I mean, that is a real demented good news on your part.
The off season is tough sometimes for content creators. You got to get really creative as far as like what kind of content you're putting out there, because honestly, after the season, sometimes people just check out until preseason. Like that's just kind of what sometimes it happens. So I'm glad that there's still spring football, because a lot of college programs are actually moving towards canceling spring football altogether or condensing it and not doing as many practices. Luckily, on the college side, I cover a lot of Notre Dame, and Notre Dame is still doing 15 practices and a spring game. So it gives me something to write about the next few weeks outside of draft coverage as well. So very grateful and happy that there is still some semblance of spring football, although I think in a couple years there will be almost no traces left of spring football on the college level. But we'll
enjoy it while you can. Enjoy it while you can. Jeff Rubel says, good news. This time next week, he'll be in Berlin, Germany. That is exciting. Lou Chesney, his good news is that Drake won. There you go. Good news for Yannick going to Portugal tonight for a week vacation. That is exciting. Eric says, good news. Finally woke up early enough to enjoy a live show. My good news is actually bad news for society, but it's good news for me because I think I was crying laughing at this all day yesterday. Did you see the announcement of the collaboration between DoorDash and Klarna yesterday?
I saw something about it. I didn't go in depth on it, but I did see.
Do you know what Klarna is? Or have you ever heard of Afterpay? It's like layaway, yes. Right? It's an online financing service for purchases. And usually it's an option you see it nowadays. Like when I bought an expensive piece of jewelry for my wife for Christmas last year online, I'm on the Pandora store and there's an option to do Klarna if you want to pay for this in, 6 monthly installments of blah, blah, blah. And that makes some sense for expensive jewelry and appliances and electronics and things that are costly. Sure. Like I get it. It's a thing that people need to do sometimes to get things. Is it the wisest financial decision to go into debt on consumer goods? Maybe not, but people do it. There is now a collaboration between Klarna and DoorDash where you can now use Klarna financing for your food delivery. So if you want to pay for your stuffed crust pizza in 6 monthly installments now, you can. And the jokes that were made on the internet yesterday about this had me crying. My favorite one was it was a picture of Dave Ramsey looking really disappointed because it is just antithetical to everything that man has ever preached. It's just, I don't know what to say. It's the funniest thing in the world that you're gonna finance a cheesy gordita crunch over the next 6 months. That you're gonna go into debt over Taco Bell is the funniest thing I've ever heard. And people, I'm begging you to stop. Don't do this. Do not finance your burritos. But boy, is it funny.
Hey, DoorDash is expensive, man. Though it is a little pricey.
If you can't afford your Chipotle delivery, you don't get Chipotle tonight. You're eating beans and rice. I'm turning into Dave Ramsey over here. I'm waiting for the day 3 years from now somebody calls into the Dave Ramsey show and it's like, Dave, I have $19,000 in Klarna DoorDash debt. And then Dave explodes live on internet television.
I am kind of curious of how far people are going to take that. That's a very interesting question.
It's insane.
Are people going to literally just like go super crazy about it and just be okay with being in debt over DoorDash? Like that is gonna.
Some folks will. That's what they're banking on. That's the whole point of the partnership. I'm most curious to see how small they let you do it. Like literally, can I finance my Taco Bell? Can I pay $1.25 for the next 4 months for my Taco Bell delivery? Is it going to be on that level, or is it going to be for large orders only? I don't know.
So I was going to get some work done after this, and now I'm just going to be looking over the payment in the installments that you could do for DoorDash now on long term. If it's like a 6-month process, a 4-month process, this is going to be my day now, unfortunately.
Well, that's our good news PSA for the end of the day. Do not go into debt over a stuffed crust pizza delivery. I'm begging you, don't do it. I think if the government catches you financing your DoorDash, your credit score should plummet just immediately. They should knock 100 points off your credit score because you clearly can't be trusted with your money. You can't be.
To teach them a lesson, right? Like, yeah, your credit's going to plummet if you do this devil's work right here.
If you finance your sushi delivery, you're cooked. We're not going to let you. You don't get to be a homeowner anymore. Sorry, you don't. All right. One more good news for the people before we get out of here is that this is the last show before Austin Stanley makes his triumphant return. So next week, 5 for 5, it will be me and Austin Stanley going Monday through Friday, reacting to all of the news, all of the motion, I'd imagine. We buried the lead. The Titans signed somebody yesterday. They signed an edge player who you've never heard of. That's exciting. So they'll continue to make these little signings that we'll probably talk about next week. We'll have more March Madness to react to. Austin will explain where the heck he's been. So an exciting week coming up with Austin's return after 3 weeks off. For Ryan, who I am very appreciative of. Ryan, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for letting me drag you an hour and a half today to have some mock draft fun. You've been the man. It's been a good time talking draft with you the past couple of days. I'm Houston Freeze. Like the show before you go. Subscribe to the A to Z Sports YouTube channel before you go. Check out all of our content coming later today on A to Z Sports.com. And we'll talk to you next Monday.